Hey YouTube. Today we are going to have a different video. Today I'm going to be discussing the lonely life of an empath. So, um, I remember going out with my friends in my young adult life, and we used to go to clubs or whatever, and like everybody would be like so hype, right? And I was just there, like I was dressed and ready to go, and I was just happy to be there. Um, I remember that I could be like on the dance floor and you know, the music is blasting and suddenly thinking something of someone randomly, even someone I didn't know. And like I could be dancing and just randomly be like, wow, I feel so bad for them. Or like, wow, that person must be so sad. And I could never explain it, right? I'm not quite sure even that back then I would recognize it or that it had even happened. Okay. If I could describe it, it was almost like an isolated sound wave that carried its way through the noise and all the way into my ear. Um or telepathy, whatever. I don't know. Um, I could never enjoy the club like everyone else. It was just too much noise. I could hear myself talk. I couldn't hear myself talk, or I couldn't hear myself think. And in reality, that's kind of what I wanted to do, to converse with my friends, to spend time with my friends. I was never the party girl, okay? I've never really been the party girl, and even now, I've grown to be more extroverted at this point in my life, but technically, I'm a high functioning introvert. I've never been the first person that people call to go out and party or to go to the bar. I suppose I've never been fun enough. I've always been the therapist, though. The one who always held space for everyone, even though there'd be never anyone to hold space for me. Still, regardless of where I am in my life, whether I'm in a high, a low, or really low, you know, I've never been able to turn someone away when they need help. It's almost like, like I feel it deeply, and I know what it feels like to be turned away. Okay. Um, I know what it feels like to be ignored or simply just not acknowledged during a difficult time. And I just can't bear to do that to someone else. I remember always feeling embarrassed for other people. Like when people are rude to waiters or mocking or patronizing to others, most people just identify it as feelings of awkwardness, which, I can admit that I experience those things every now and then, but it was more than that for me. It would be as if they were speaking to me, like even though it was somebody else being spoken to that way, it almost felt like I was receiving it. You know what I mean? I could feel everything, and I would eventually stand up for people. I became something of an activist in this department because, the funny thing is, I started young. Like I was 8 years old when I started getting into fights. Um, and I would be getting into these fist fights to defend my cousin and eventually to own my own conviction when I ran my mouth. No one has ever defended me, and the times I thought someone was defending me, which can be counted in like one hand across 45 years, it would be more about them having something to prove, It would be more about their own ego. I could sit here and analyze how a lot of this stems from issues of abandonment and neglect. Truth is, I come from a family that never made me feel protected, and everything was always my fault, the girl's fault. It was always my fault when a man laid eyes on me. It was always my fault when a pedophile stepped out of line. I was always the sassy one. Um, I smiled too much. I got too close or wore something too nice or skimpy or got too reckless. So I defend others. Okay. I defend them to empower them so they don't feel as powerless as me. At this age, I still struggle with self-love and self-care. Even though people claim to be intimidated by my confidence and my presence, they have no idea the work that I've had to put in just to get here. But every now and then I look around and I observe the people around me and I see love that I've never experienced. I love myself enough to know that I am a prize for any man. Okay. That I would rather be alone than in bad company. I love myself enough to have standards because I already know what a toxic relationship is. And for a long period of time, and I refuse to go through that again. But more importantly, I express love to others because I see the beauty in their quirks and in the imperfections they cling to dislike about themselves. Today, I kind of own my sadness. It's a part of me. My loneliness is a part of me. I don't let those things cripple me. I use them to help others, to uplift their spirits, to help them see the beauty in themselves and the beauty around them. People should know how special they are and how their unique traits add color to a very dark world. I may not have that same support, but it's normal for me at this point. The joy I experience when I brighten someone's day or, I spark love in their hearts, in order to counter the sadness that I carry in me all the time. This is the path of the empath. It's the lonely path of an empath. It's not a fun path, but it's all I've known. Sometimes people will ask me certain questions and I won't know how to answer them sometimes, without sounding like a Debbie Downer, because they'll sit there and be like, oh, what do you think about, heart this and love that? And, oh, do you know this? And I just be like, I can't relate. So, but I've witnessed this, right? I've seen this in other people. I see it when I go to the gas station and, you see old couples. Oh my gosh. When you see old couples and the way that the old man is attentive to her and he's gentle with her and still protective of her, and even the other way around, when you see the old lady and she's making sure that her old man is taken care of. She gets a little maternal with him at times. I've seen it with middle-aged couples. One time when I was living in Pennsylvania, I was driving a van for the company that I was working for at the time. And it was time for me to get some lunch. I had pulled up to the gas station and I had bought myself some stuff. I'm sitting in the van and I look over to like this car next to me. It was just like coincidence or whatever. And I can see the gentleman, like, at the time he was an older gentleman for me. Like he was probably my age, at that time. And like, he puts his arm around his wife, and like it was just like really tender, like just very tender. I don't know what that's like. I don't know what that is, you know? And I remember falling apart in the van. I remember crying, because I know this exists, but I've never experienced it. I never experienced it from my family. I've never experienced it from my partner. Um, and I'm probably being a little blanketed with that because like my first husband was amazing. Unfortunately, I was just too young and I guess I was on a karmic journey at the time. And there was going to be a rough lesson to learn from that. Um, and for a long time, I punished myself for that because even today, like he would pass away about 5 years after our divorce. But like, even if he were to be alive today, like, I understand that that's not who I'm meant to be with. You know what I mean? But he did set some type of standard as to my expectations with love relationships. Um, and then like, sometimes when I'm on Facebook, like, I see pictures of girls and they're like, oh, girls group, girls time, girls night, girls whatever, girls trip. I don't know that either, and I had a chosen family, because when I couldn't like really get the love that I needed from my own family, I ended up choosing my family. And for a time, I had that family. And it still wasn't to that level, right? It wasn't to that level of, oh, let's go call Karen, Karen this, Karen that. No, it was always, people would just show up when they needed somebody to hold space for them. And in all honesty, 45 years old, and I still kind of carry that sadness with me. I'm like, it's there, but it's not to say, I don't think it hinders me because I do believe it exists and I still want it. But I'm sure that there's some stuff that I need to work through um personally. In the end, all I can do is just continue to love. And the way that I do that is by being of service. I do that by showing love to other people. I do that by, respecting the things that make people different, the things that make them unique. I do that by being of support, you know, when people have dreams, when people have hopes and wishes, when they have a dark time, a hard moment, where they can't be so positive. So I spread that positivity, you know, and that's how I show love, that is how I continue to spread love, even though I personally don't get that. And for a long time, I remember the bitterness that I used to feel. Like, I remember crying and kind of pouting about, why doesn't anyone love me? Why doesn't anybody want, why can't I have a friend as good as I am a friend? You know? And I could get into a whole bunch of stuff about how, sometimes this is the journey and there's something to learn from that journey and whatever the case may be. But I don't know. At this point, it's almost like, what's the point of self-victimization? Like, what is the point of feeling sorry for yourself? And what is the point of, you know, crying about those things? In the end, I know bottom line is I got to focus on loving me, right? Every time I look in the mirror and I see something that I don't like about me, I have to learn to love me. I'm not gonna sit here and start like spewing all the things that I complain about myself all the time. But in the end, it's like, it doesn't matter, you know? Um, yeah, I just realized this fucking laugh has been here all this time. Whatever, it makes no difference. Um, but you know, I can't be focusing on the negative things anymore. You know what I'm saying? I just gotta keep doing better. You know, I cannot allow myself to fall into depression, to fall into this sadness. I cannot allow to let these things consume me. And because I'm constantly working on myself, this is what I share with others. I don't go around telling them, oh, I'm doing this for me and I'm doing that for me. You know what I'm saying? I just, when somebody comes up to me and they're, having a hard time, I give them the advice that I kind of have to give myself. And in there, in that, I'm helping them, but I'm helping myself. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not about preaching. It's practicing what you preach, which is something I've been having a huge issue with my superiors at work. But that's another video for another channel. But here we are, guys. You know what I'm saying? This is what I have to share. This is something that I was reflecting on. Because every time I do like my little shadow work, every time I do, self-reflection, whenever I start messing around with my tarot cards, these are messages that constantly keep coming up. Like, I get repeating cards because of this, because this is something that I have to work through. And I can't keep feeling bad for myself because I'm never chosen. And again, that's a sadness that I carry with me, but at the same time, I use it to help others. Because nobody should have to experience that. I mean, maybe they should, because everybody's journey is different. You know what I mean? But if they come to me for help, then I know that there's something I need to do to help them. Whether they choose to listen or not, it's up to them. Like, I'm not going to be that person that's going to be like haunting them, like, oh, you have to, you have to, you have to. But if they come and they ask for that help, I give it. And if they keep coming back with the same problem, I'm like, well, last time I said this, and I'll just reiterate. um but it's a lonely path. It's a sad, lonely path. And I think I wouldn't say that I've gotten comfortable with it. I would just have to say that it's kind of all I've known. So whenever, my cards start talking about change, or my cards start talking about, the Five of Cups sadness and blah, 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 what else is new? And one thing I understand is that in the end, we're all going to keep cycling through these moments for as long as we need to, until we finally get tired and make that change. I'm still a little unclear as to what that change is for me, but I don't know. I guess we'll just have to find out.